This right here was not only a good episode of The Flash, but really an epic DC crossover event. It was such a good episode. I mean, obviously it is an episode of The Flash, so that's kind of our focus is on Barry Allen, The Flash, and all the Flash characters, Team Flash, and all that stuff. But we also have all these other DC characters showing up here, both heroes and villains. And there's so many crazy DC references in here, and it was just a lot of fun. It's such an amazing episode. I mean, I had a lot of fun last week's episode, and I thought that was good. But this one I think I like even more because, again, it's just so good. And I can't really get into more details without going into spoilers. So, spoiler warning, if you've not yet seen this episode, Armageddon Part 4, aka The Flash Season 8, Episode 4. What an amazing episode. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, let's go and jump into breaking down this episode because we got a lot to talk about. So the episode starts off pretty much right where last week's episode ended off, except we kind of get a little bit of a prologue to that ending where we're at the West Party, which seems to be like an engagement party or something like that, for Eobard Thawne and Iris West. So we're in Central City 2031, and we've just got some nice interactions with our different characters here in the future in 2031, kind of catching up with them, seeing where they're at in life. Like, for example, Ryan Wilder, aka Batwoman, she wants to have a baby, and apparently she and Sophie have now been married, which is interesting because on the Batwoman series right now, they're not even a couple. I mean, Sophie's off hooking up with Renee Montoya, so I mean, we kind of saw that coming. Like, it's so expected that they're going to get together, but spoiler alert. Also, though, we do have, speaking of romance and being together, but also not being together, is Allegra and Chester. There's a little bit of a tension between them, and Allegra's actually been in London this whole time, but she's actually moving back to the States now because she recently got a new job offer in Gotham, so good for her. But like I said, this is where we then transition into Eobard doing his speech to Iris, then Barry arrives, and everybody's like, oh, what are you doing here? And so to prove that to them that he is the Flash, he gets out his Flash ring and puts on the Flash suit, but instead of it being his Flash suit, instead it's actually the yellow and red reverse Flash suit. So in this timeline, Barry Allen is the reverse Flash, and Eobard Thawne is the Flash. Which is something we already knew about based off promo images and the synopsis for this episode, and also leaked set photos from months ago. We knew this was going to be happening, but actually seeing it in action here was so much fun. Plus, that new reverse Flash suit is just, it's so beautiful. I absolutely love it. Especially, it looks great on Grant Gustin. So we have basically everybody suiting up here and getting in this giant fight. And what's really interesting though is that as we have our heroes fighting Barry, they say this is for Ray and Nate and Sarah, and this is for Cisco, almost as if they're all dead because, well, actually in this timeline they are dead, and apparently it is the fault of Barry Allen, the reverse Flash. So clearly he's like completely outnumbered here, so he just grabs Iris and speeds away with her. Meanwhile, as they get out of the way, Frost and Chilblain, turns out they were in the bathroom doing a you-know-what, and they're like, oh, what did we miss? You know, that cliche thing you see happen in movies and shows all the time. So then we catch back up with Barry and Iris, where then Eobard actually grabs Barry and takes him off, and then they have a little conversation where basically he reveals his big evil master plan here, where he created a reverse Flashpoint, which is so awesome. I mean, I was starting to get vibes of this as soon as the episode started, and when Barry, went to put on the Flash suit and it was the reverse Flash suit, that's exactly what happens in the Flashpoint storyline, where Barry ends up in this new timeline, and then when he goes to put on the Flash suit, it's the reverse Flash suit, just like in this, and it was just so good. So we've literally got a reverse Flashpoint storyline going on here, and it was so amazing to see play out here because Eobard Thawne has now become the Flash, and apparently he killed Barry Allen as a child, so at midnight tonight, Barry Allen will cease to exist. So that's why Barry's kind of in a hurry to, fix the timeline here, because if he doesn't, then, well, he's just gonna stop existing. So he needs a little bit of help. So he goes to team up with another villain, with Damien Darhk, because he sees the news come on. Damien Darhk just got out of prison. Apparently he is the one that killed Argus director Cisco Ramon, the Legends of Tomorrow, and Ray Palmer. So Barry visits Damien Darhk, And of course, because in this timeline he is Reverse Flash, he basically pretends to be Reverse Flash and explains everything, and kind of puts the whole blame on Barry Allen the Flash, and which is actually Eobard Thawne the Flash. So Damien Darhk agrees to help him because he's his old partner, because of course, as you remember, in DC's Land of Tomorrow Season 2, they work together as the Legion of Doom. So all they need is the PED, which is the Particle Eradication Distributor. So they need to go get that and steal it from Team Flash. So that's when we catch back up with the Team Flash, and they're having a team meeting. And again, we get those little conversations with our characters here, and they're like, for example, Alex and Allegra are talking about her and Chester, who apparently they hooked up in 2021, which, as you know, is the year we're currently in. So we've been getting little hints and teases of their romance throughout the season so far, but it sounds like things are really about to heat up right here, because it turns out they hooked up during a session of D&D, but then he ghosted her, so things just kind of went nowhere. And before the conversation even continues, Damien Darhk and Barry show up and get the PED, and then there's this really interesting moment where, of course, Damien Darhk, being the villain that he is, even though he isn't completely a villain, he's also heroic at times, he wants to kill all of the Flash's friends, but Barry says no. So then that's when they go back to Damien Darhk's apartment, and he realizes that this is not the Reverse Flash, this is not the real Barry Allen, or at least not the real Barry Allen Reverse Flash that he knows. So Barry explains everything, he tells him the truth, and basically tells him about how Damien Darhk, in his timeline, actually sacrificed himself for his daughter, Nora Darhk. So in this timeline, Nora is dead. So this is when Damien actually changes his mind and decides to team up and work with Barry Allen, because he would much rather sacrifice himself to know that his daughter, Nora, would be alive. Which I really enjoyed seeing here, because when this first started in the episode, sure, I was glad to see Damien Darhk back here and, back to his villainous ways, but I was super confused because, first of all, last time we saw him, he was dead. So now not only is he alive, but it's like that big sacrifice he made in Land of Tomorrow just was for nothing, and now all of a sudden he's a villain again. But you get this explanation here, and he kind of gets a second redemption. So I did really enjoy seeing that. So they decide they are indeed going to team up once again. But now let's talk about Team Flash once again, because we got some more conversations. One is a conversation between Batwoman and Iris. There's not really too much going on here that we really need to talk about, but I do like how Ryan mentions the Batwing called. Of course, Luke Fox Batwing. He recently became Batwing on the Batwoman series. And apparently Two-Face has resurfaced in Gotham. So again, that's one of those really, really cool DC references and Easter eggs that we've got in this episode. But then we got the Chester Allegra thing again. This was a big part of the episode, which usually, as you know, if you've been watching my videos for this show, I'm not the biggest fan of really Chester or Allegra. Sure, they'd be good together, but I don't really need to see it. But in this episode, I actually really enjoyed seeing the relationship and seeing this story play out, because, of course, Alex is now mad at Chester because Allegra told her that Chester ghosted her. So she goes and confronts Chester, and this is where he actually tells her the truth, where he didn't ghost Allegra. Allegra, he actually woke up early to go to Jitters to buy blueberry muffins and coffee so they could have breakfast in bed and watch the sunrise, and he had the whole day planned, and basically he was in love with her and actually still is in love with her, but by the time he got back with the breakfast in bed, she was gone, so technically she's the one that ghosted him. So then, of course, Alex asked, why didn't you bring this up to her before? And he said, I tried to, but she cut me off, and also then the Legion of Doom attacked us, which is another really cool one, another really cool DC Easter egg reference, which, by the way, I really hope that we see the Legion of Doom at some point in the Arrowverse. We did get that version of Legion of Doom in DC's Land of Tomorrow Season 2, but I'd like a really good version of the Legion of Doom in the Arrowverse. So also within this conversation, you also have Ryan Choi there, who apparently is best friends with Chester. And at the end of this conversation, after Chester kind of walks off in frustration, Ryan basically says that he thinks love is pointless and all this stuff. And I was super confused by this part, because the last time we saw Ryan Choi was, of course, in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event. But in that crossover, he literally had a wife and a daughter. So I don't know why he all of a sudden hates love. I mean, maybe it's because in this timeline he either they both died, or maybe that never happened. Maybe he never got married. Maybe he never met her, and that could be one of the effects of Reverse Flash's Reverse Flashpoint storyline thing that's going on here. So that is a possible explanation, but I was just super confused by that at first. But guys, this is where we get into our action for the episode, where Frost and Chilblain go into action. Of course, Chilblain's still just wearing the vest thing, which is very comics accurate, but also, of course, you know, he's got to show off the abs and everything, which it's still ridiculous. But anyway, they go to fight Damien Darhk, and they actually reveal that they got a protection spell from good old John Constantine, who actually just left Legends of Tomorrow. Matt Ryan, retired from the role. But still, again, nice DC reference. There were some great DC references in this episode. So they end up fighting Damien Darhk, and then Allegra and Chester, as they're in Star Labs, they say they love each other, they kiss, they get that happy ending. I'll be interested to see how that happens in actual present day 2021. And then Ryan Choi shows up as the Atom, just as he does in the comics. So I really love his suit as the Atom. It's so comics accurate, and also just seeing him in action. I wish we'd get more of it. Who knows if or when we're going to see this character pop up again. I really hope we do, because I actually really enjoyed his energy in this episode. He was a lot more fun and bouncy than he was in Crisis. So I'd really like to see more of that character, especially because that Atom suit is so good. So Atom and Sentinel, aka Alex Danvers, show up to assist, and they take down Damien Darhk, and then Frost and Chilblain they basically save the day there, even though Damien Darhk is also kind of trying to save the day. But as that happens, Barry is currently racing around the world with Eobard Thawne chasing him, and this is what Despero saw in 2031 as Armageddon, as this big, huge destruction of the world that Barry is causing. But turns out he's actually just traveling back in time to basically try and fix the timeline and reverse this Reverse Flashpoint. So then all of a sudden we get to Central City 2021, where all of Team Flash is dead except for Cecile. Despero killed them, and he's about to kill her when all of a sudden a time wave basically purifies everything. They all disappear, and Barry is now back as the Flash and explains to Despero everything that happened. So then Despero is like, alright, I trust you for now, but I'm going to go straight to 2031 to basically check on you. So there's that, and then Barry, of course, we kind of get a happy ending here where Barry reunites with Team Flash. He gets a call from Joe. Joe is alive. The timeline has been saved, and yippee. But of course, you got to keep in mind, this is only part 4 of Armageddon. We still have one more part of Armageddon next week, Armageddon part 5. So we get this cliffhanger teased post logo where Reverse Flash is in the Star Labs secret room thing, and it's Tom Cavanagh as Eobard Thawne in this new Reverse Flash suits. And I gotta be honest, he really doesn't look great in that suit. He didn't really look great in the Flash suit either, but he did actually look better in the Flash suit. So I, along with a lot of other people, really wish they would just bring back Matt Letcher as Reverse Flash, because he's so good. He's so good as Reverse Flash. And Tom Cavanagh isn't bad. It's just he doesn't look as good in the suit. But does seem like he's going to be basically the big bad, the main villain in next week's episode, where we're also getting the return of Kat McNamara as Mia Queen / Mia Smoke, the new Green Arrow. And it seems like that's actually present day when that's taking place, which is interesting because she comes from the future. So I don't know exactly what's going on there, but I'm definitely excited to see that Flash Arrow team up post-Crisis. It's going to be a lot of fun. But guys, that was the end of the episode, Armageddon Part 4. Again, that was a really fun episode, really fun DC episode, seeing all these characters team up, all these different heroes, all these different villains, getting all those different DC references like Two-Face and John Constantine, the Legion of Doom, and of course getting the Reverse Flashpoint. That was something I never even thought of, but it was so cool to see play out in this episode. I'm really excited to see where things go in episode 5, because this episode basically wrapped up Armageddon, but for some reason we still have one more part, because Reverse Flash is still out there. So we'll see where things go next week. But for now, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about this episode? What did you think about Armageddon Part 4? And where do you think things are going to go in the final part, Armageddon Part 5? So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything goes on